It's Wicked Sin right here on your classic metal show with Evil Ways. I forgot how much I liked that band. I remember when they came out with their disc. What is it called? The Vision, I think it's called. Yeah, The Vision. Mm-hmm. And I forgot how good that band was.
I like that band a lot, man. They were solid. I think they're still around.
They only put out the one disc, right?
I think they're like back or something, and they're putting together another disc or something. I don't know. I know I saw their name not too long ago doing something. So that's that's it, but another good band.
Mm-hmm. Just revisiting a lot of these tunes that we played here on the show. What is it, like 14 years ago?
Right.
Yeah, 13 or 14 years ago, and I forgot, so many of these releases that, we tried to help promote at the time.
Right.
With Kivil record label and several other, smaller independent labels that would send us stuff, and, we would play their stuff pretty consistently.
Right.
But then we sort of got away from, being a music show and,
Sure.
got into 5 hours of talking. So, there wasn't a lot of time to do a lot of promotion, but when we did, that was pretty good stuff.
Well, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I like that band. That sounded good.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Apparently, there was an event that took place in Nashville today.
Yes.
It was not Hurricane Henry or whatever it was. It was. It took the city by storm like a hurricane, though.
That's right. So I'm hearing.
And so we're supposed to get an update as to what took place at the, what was it called? The
Rock and Pod Expo.
Rock and Pod Expo.
Yep.
Was Vinnie Vincent there?
No, he wasn't there.
Oh, he didn't.
There were his podcasts there.
He did not make his debut at the Rock and Pod Expo?
No, but there were some stars there, like Mark Slaughter was there, and your buddy Rick Rule was there.
Rick Rule. Okay.
So there was quite a, I saw a few pictures and it looked like there was a pretty good turnout, but I did not see a whole lot. And I know I was texting back and forth with Toomey throughout the day, and he said that it was pretty well attended and that it seemed like everybody had a good time. So, all good.
All right. Well, speaking of Josh Toomey of the Toomey podcast, Socket Toomey podcast, Rocket Toomey podcast, Pod Expo podcast. It is Josh Toomey. What's going on, Josh?
What's up, Neely? What's up, Chris? Talk Toomey podcast coming to you live from the 2017 Rock and Pod Expo. How are you?
Are you broadcasting live right now? Are we live on the air?
We are live on the air on CMSRocks.com, and we are live on the CMS as the 2017 Rock and Pod Expo comes to a close here in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee.
Winding down.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Dude, let's get the info, man. How did it go?
You could not have asked for a better day. Like, there was the proper amount of people here. The booths were great. The albums were selling great. Got a ton of content for the podcast. The guests were great. I interviewed Toby Wright. I interviewed Steve from Skin Lab, as Chris and I talked about. Steve and I sat down for a good, 40 minutes or so. Just tons of people sitting down with me, and I got to talk to your good buddy John Astronomy and Mark Striegel, and everybody's here. Man, you guys would have, you guys would have been the big dogs here if you would have came down, and it was a great time for everybody.
We would have been the big dogs.
Yeah, if Talking Metal walks in and they're the big dogs, you guys would have been the big dogs.
Really? They were considered the biggest of the podcasts down there?
What do you think? Rock and roll podcast. You got all the Kiss podcasts. You got all the stuff that Talking Metal shows up. That's some good stuff, man. Classic Metal Show walks in. That's some good stuff.
Well, I heard that.
What do you expect?
Well, I heard that the Toomey podcast is a pretty big player in that mix.
And that's why I got proper placement right by the front door entrance when people walked in. You got an onslaught of Talk Toomey. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get the Blabbermouth headlines way before the Classic Metal Show gets the same headlines.
All right, you beat us one time. One time you beat us.
I beat all of the classic metal show to the Blabbermouth headlines. Don't get me wrong.
Yep, you did this week. Dude, Neely, you don't know this, and the listeners don't know this either. Josh and I we both knew we had a Blabbermouth headline this week, with me with the Oni stuff and him with the George Lynch stuff. So we kind of had a friendly bet going, of who would launch first, and he, of course, beat us by 3 hours this time.
Nice. Very good. So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, what did Mark and John have to say for themselves?
I only talked to. I sat down with John Ostronomy for a moment. Talked some good Ace Frehley stuff and talked about as you, Neely, who has had the show for 21 years. They've had their show for close to 13 years now, and sat down and talked to them about the pioneering of this medium, and sitting down and kind of seeing where the start of this is, and to where we're in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, amongst our peers, and we're all looking at each other in the eye and able to sit down and put voices to faces. And it's been great to just talk to everybody. And even John Ostronomy loves the name Talk Toomey, which is hard for you to say, but it's Talk Toomey podcast. Nice. It's like Phil Anselmo. It's Anselmo. But
well, Josh, how were the panels, specifically I know you said you talked to Toby Wright. How was that panel, and how was the heavy metal parking lot reunion?
The panels I thought were fantastic. I got to stand next to they're calling him the DC 101 guy for the parking lot, heavy metal parking lot panel. They did a screening of the 15-minute, I guess, short film, heavy metal parking lot. I kind of got to sit next to him and kind of ask him, I was like, can you believe that this is even happening? Chris Sinzak of the Decibel Geek podcast, who kind of put all this on, I got hats off to him for getting everybody into town, and the screenings were great, man. I did a panel podcast with a show called Drunken Lullabies early in the day. It was myself, Ian Wadley of the Rock and Metal Combat podcast, Chris Sinzak, and the host of Drunken Lullabies. We did a live podcast in front of a pretty good sized crowd. I sent Chris Aiken a few photos, and it was hard to see from the photos, but I mean, you couldn't ask for a better turnout. I thought it was pretty good. But hey, do you guys want to talk to Chris Sinzak of the Decibel Geek podcast?
Sure.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Hey, fellas.
Hey, brother. How are you, man?
I'm good. Good to talk to you guys.
Well, dude, you're still alive, so you didn't kill yourself, so I'm assuming it went extremely well.
It did go really well. Are both of you guys on the line?
Yep, we're both here.
Hey, Neely, how are you?
I'm well. I got a question for you when you're finished updating us here, but go ahead.
No, I want to hear the question. What's the question?
Well, I saw your name in the credits in Here I Go Again movie, and I wondered what part did you play in that, as far as, promoting it or helping it or whatever.
Oh, I think that was just an acknowledgement because we had those guys on our podcast to help promote it, but we weren't actually in the movie or anything.
Well, I understand. I meant, what part did you play in furthering that movie along? And there's a question, and I kind of caught fire this week because of my thoughts on the movie, and I saw your name roll through the credits there. And our friend Jim Bartek, he said he watched the movie and he's confused. Is it a real documentary or is it a spoof movie? And what do you understand about that?
I think it was a passion project that I think they intended on getting their band back together to make that actually happen. But as the years went on, obviously things fell apart with that idea, and they decided to salvage what they had and went forward with what they had. And
so it's a real thing.
Oh, absolutely a real thing, yeah.
All right, well, that answers Jim's question in the chat room because he couldn't tell if it was a real thing. I thought it was a real thing, but he says, well, once I watched it, I couldn't tell if it was a real thing or if it was just a spoof movie.
Oh, no, it's not a spoof movie. Those guys, like, literally put themselves into mountains of debt to do that movie.
Absolutely. All right, well, go ahead. That was my only question for you as far as that goes, because I saw your name pop up, and I go, okay, I was wondering what part you played in that whole chain of people involved.
Right. No, I was just happy to be acknowledged in it. But no, I haven't got to talk to you since you talked about this whole idea we had for this Rock and Pod Expo a few months ago, and I thought it would be interesting to just give you a recap of how everything went.
Well, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, I know you had asked the question, who would come to this? So I will go over a few of the people that came to this today. Mark Slaughter came to this today. Gunnar Nelson came to this today. Guys from Tora Tora, Every Mother's Nightmare, Roxy Blue. Let's see, who else came today? Gary Corbett, who played with Kiss, came today. People from at least 4 different countries and 25 different states came today. Raven, the heavy metal legends that influenced Metallica, they came today. And also a number of vendors that made a whole lot of money actually came today. So Neely, it actually worked out pretty good.
Great.
Well, I'm glad that worked out. I'm glad it wasn't a total bust.
Not at all. It was fun. It would have been interesting to have you guys here, but you didn't seem interested.
That's Chris's fault. He says, I'm not going to that thing.
No, it's not my fault at all.
Well, I didn't get a chance to throw on a bad wig, sing off key, and air drum, and that would have probably gotten you here.
Right.
So, dude, you how did it do as far as the finances? Did it do what you needed it to do?
Yeah, we actually did make a profit on it. It went really well.
So is it going to be worth it to do it a second time?
Oh, totally. We're definitely doing it next year.
Very cool, man. Dude, that's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Big
Yeah,
risk,
it worked
big
out.
reward, man. I mean, that's always been the thought, at least in my head, was it's always been big risk, big reward, man. And you took the big risk, man. So bravo to you.
Oh, I'm not flying on any private jet anytime soon, but it definitely did well enough to where we definitely want to do it again next year. But no, Neely, I'm just giving you a hard time, man. But no, I had a good time doing it, and it came out well. And next year hopefully we can have a classic metal show booth there.
Well, we always wish everybody well in their ventures. I mean, we see a lot of people run into some trouble, especially our friend Justin Murr with his Rockin' Skulls. And, it is a gamble. It's tough. It's a big risk. And the thing is when the path is not clear, it's just like, man, I hope these guys know what they're doing. So apparently you must have known what you were doing.
Well, nah, I can't say that either. I mean, it was a gamble, and, it's one of those things where when you crowdfund something, it's just a gamble on if it works and if people show up. And we got lucky today, and then they showed up. But, I think we got some momentum. We should be able to do it again. Justin, I know I've been following that story, and it's a shame because I do think Justin means well, and he is a real fan of that stuff. But it is a really big gamble to book all those bands and to expect all that to happen. It's just this business is not cut and dry. It's absolutely a complete risk on any of this stuff.
Well, we all know about that because over the 21 years we've been doing this, we've been asked to be involved in promoting or being somehow intertwined with promoting events. And when you sit back and look at it, it's just like, this just doesn't add up here. So, forgive my skepticism for this Rock and Pod Expo, but I'm glad it was successful for you and you actually walked away with a couple dollars in your pocket.
It's all good, man. And you guys, and Chris was good about putting the commercial for it on you guys' feed, so I appreciate that.
Sure, man. Well, dude, glad to hear it went well. Now go party, man. What are you doing talking to us? Go party with the
Oh, no, I got plenty of beer to drink. It was good to talk to you guys.
All right, brother.
All right, have a good night.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right, bye-bye.
There we go.
Oh, he hung up on us. I thought maybe Josh would come back or something.
It's all good. I'm glad it went well, man. I really am glad.
Well, again, I did not wish anybody ill in any of this. It just seemed like it was a little risky gamble to me, and it was just like I'm not sure exactly what the impetus is here, but I hope it does okay.
Well, next year Next year, one of us will go. How's that? At least one of us will go.
Sure, why not?
You know, because I probably, especially with John being on Toomey's show, I know John's already been bugging me about next year we're going, right? And I'm like, yeah,
it's a group effort.
You know, and because my plans, when I plan ahead a year, they always come to fruition.
Of course they do, because next week you're going to have that. Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, we only planned that 11 months out, and next week that's not going to happen.
No. So, anyway, yeah, I am skeptical of this kind of stuff because I know how sketchy it is, and I know how fickle the fans can be. And people say, yeah, I'll support that. I'll support that. And then they never do. So,
yeah, well, I'm glad that they did for those guys. I know, we haven't talked about it a whole lot, probably mostly because we weren't really involved in it. But I know Chris. I talked to Chris and Toomey and these guys a lot, and that dude busted his fucking ass.
Well, you got to, man. It's something that you have to work at every day, just like a job.
Yeah, and he really busted his ass to get a lot of cool guests out, and he really did have a lot of band people and a lot of producers came out, and that's pretty fucking intense project to get. And no offense to Nashville, but it's not L.A. or New York or Chicago. It is kind of off the beaten path a little bit.
Sure.
To get a lot of people there. So good on him, man. I'm glad it went well. I was praying that I wasn't going to hear, 6 people showed up.
Right.